What is up, my imagination connoisseurs? R&B coming at you on my Robservations show. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's become part of this, the Post Geek Singularity community. Thank you for all the support you've been giving me, and thank you for joining and all the comments. And I appreciate it that you're sharing this channel and subscribing and telling everybody about it, and most of all, joining in on the conversation and really participating in a healthy way. After the last Jedi debacle, it's nice to see a healthy community of fans and genre aficionados and imagination connoisseurs. This is going to be a little different, maybe, than the chats I've had before. I was going to talk about Axanar, the fan film project Axanar. Now, full disclosure, I was involved with this project from pretty much March of 2014 to November of 2017, where I resigned from this project. What is Axanar, you might ask? For those who don't know what it is, it began as a fan film project. It was the brainchild of producer and creator Alec Peters, who wanted to make a fan film about a character from a third season Star Trek episode named Garth of Izar, who captured his imagination when he was in his younger days. And over the years, he wanted to tell a story about Garth of Izar. Well, in 2014, he recruited my good friend, Christian Gossett of Red Star fame. If you know the comic book Red Star, he hired Christian to direct what would be a proof of concept short that would hopefully be a precursor to what would be a feature film. So that short film was called Prelude to Axanar. And this is sort of where I came into this project. Christian had suggested that I edit the project. And that's when I met Alec Peters for the first time. I did not know him. And they asked me to come on board. And at the time, I was working for CBS, editing all of the documentaries. I was editing and producing all of the documentaries. I'm sweating, guys. I'm sweating. And girls, for the Star Trek The Next Generation Blu-rays. If you have not seen those, check them out. I'm very, very proud of the work I did for 3 years on that project. So I was still on that project, and they asked me to work on Prelude to Axanar. They ended up crowdfunding $100,000 on a $10,000 ask to make this short film. And the short film was going to be very unique. It was done in the style of The World at War. It was a documentary style film that was going to look back at this seminal battle of the 4 Years' War. And all of this was taken from various Star Trek lore, not just from the shows, but from games that FASA put out. Just like all fan productions, there was a lot of places that this project drew from, which is what attracted me to the project in the first place. It just sounded really cool because my whole life I've grown up, I used to buy unlicensed blueprints because, I had blueprints of a Gorn ship. No one even saw a Gorn ship. It was all made up. I had blueprints of the Reliant, of the K-7 space station. So people that were making non-canonical and unofficial Star Trek material was something I dealt with my whole life. So the idea of working on this short film really appealed to me. And it was really cool. The script was pretty good. Then they started hiring actors like Tony Todd, and Gary Graham was going to reprise his role of Soval from Enterprise. I'm like, wow, this is pretty dope. I mean, the aspirations of what they were going for, they were really swinging for the fences. And I was very excited, actually, to be a part of this. And I considered it the same way I consider building, one of these Star Trek models back here, a hobby. To me, it was something that was going to be I'd do in my spare time. It'd be kind of fun. I was already working on Star Trek professionally. So that was really, really cool. And they raised a lot more money than they thought on Kickstarter. So they had the money to make this film the way they wanted to make it. There was even people like Frank Serafini who was involved, who did the sound effects for Star Trek The Motion Picture. There was a lot of not only Star Trek veterans, but just a lot of people that had industry experience. And Christian had brought in his producing team. He was working with Jennifer Weberly and his company Metamorphic, and they were really in charge of putting together the film from a production standpoint. And I have to tell you, it ran like clockwork. The production of Prelude to Axanar went off without a hitch. It was shot over 2 days, and everything, went great. The great Richard Hatch, who's no longer with us, played Karn. in full Klingon makeup effects lab that had already worked on Star Trek professionally, did his makeup along with Gary Graham's ears. It was a first-rate production, and it ran with military precision. It was really beautifully done on every level. At the time, during production, I have to be clear, I did not direct any of this movie. Christian Gossett directed the entire film. He wrote the script with Alec. He directed the whole thing. I did not. While the movie was being produced, I, on my own time, with my own equipment, free of charge, brought my documentary expertise. I've been working on DVD special editions for 15 years. I came in and shot everybody that was involved with the production at my own expense. It was my footage. Nobody paid me for it. It was mine. But anyway, it was fun. Why not? It was friends, big deal. It's great. And I had said to them, I was really a proponent of, well, dude, if we're gonna do this, let's put out an awesome, Blu-ray and make it like a really professional package. Because a lot of fan films had offered these things in the past, but sometimes they just come like screeners come in white plastic envelope or white paper envelopes with a little plastic. But I wanted, I said, well, why don't we do it? Because that's the way I think. Let's do it in grand fashion. So anyway, then my job when I came on the project to work creatively on it was to cut the movie together, cut what was shot. Now I was given a lot of latitude because that's why they hired me. I was given a lot of latitude in which to cut this project, and which was great. I mean, for me creatively, it was a fantastic opportunity. And during the as all documentaries are, even though this was a fictional documentary, the process is very iterative. You come up with ideas, you think about things. For instance, I'll give you an example. Tobias Richter, who did the effects, would send us an early iteration of a shot. There was a planet called Arcanus. He would send me, okay, here's the shot of Arcanus. He would not be satisfied with that shot and say, oh no, here's a new iteration of that shot. And for me, for low budget filmmaking, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to use both of those shots so we can show how Arcanus grew. You got the beginning shot and the new shot. Why not? You want to use every asset. Like I was getting effect shots he created years before they shot Prelude to Axanar, and I was dropping them into the movie. I was asking for things. And as I worked, I got to do other things like we should get a narrator. And there were things that so it was a really gratifying creative experience for me. The great Tommy Kraft was doing all of the backgrounds. But like here's some of the things on Prelude to Axanar that were troublesome and difficult for me when I was editing the film. So these sit-down interviews that were being done, there was never any thought as to where these interviews were actually taking place in. It was just against a green screen, which made it very difficult to cut because you're wondering how the backgrounds are going to work. And Christian had this idea to shoot from the side because Milton Santiago, the DP, had showed him a documentary called Facing Ali. And I thought that was a great conceit, but it wouldn't work for the whole movie. You had to cut to the B cam, which was the face, the dead on face. So, but not knowing what the rooms look like, it was difficult to cut. And Christian worked with Tommy Kraft to create these backgrounds, and those were ongoing as I was cutting the movie. They never really posed a problem, but they were just something that was not considered when we started shooting and when I started editing. Anyway, that's immaterial. I worked on the film. The plan was, starting in May, I would work on the film and we would have our world premiere at the San Diego Comic-Con. And that was, it worked apace. I mean, one time Christian was mad at me because the World Cup was on. He wanted to edit. He wanted to meet me in the edit bay. I was hammered, but I did come to the edit bay. We didn't get much work done. I think we went to Little Tony's and had pizza instead. But for the most part, the editorial process was great. It was very exciting getting new effect shots in. I'd call up Alec and say, dude, Tobias just sent some, favor. It was wonderful getting manna from heaven from Tobias Richter from Germany. Every time he sent a new effect shot, I was like, a kid on Christmas morning. And it was great. It was really a lot of fun. The only problem that I encountered during the whole time was Tommy Kraft's final visual effects composites they had too many flares. So we asked them to redo every one of the composites literally a week before the San Diego Comic-Con. And so that ruined any ability of mine to be able to get the project finished and I could relax. There was not enough time to get all of his effects in, drop in the backgrounds and get it ready for Comic-Con. So I along with Bing Bailey, had to stay behind and forego 3 days of Comic-Con in order to get Prelude done. And it was incredibly stressful. And the last night, especially, it had to be done by 6 o'clock in the morning. Otherwise, I'd never make the screening because I was about to get on a train to get down. Anyway, the movie went off without a hitch. And it premiered in grand fashion at Horton Plaza on a gigantic screen. The sound guys did a great job. Mark Edward Lewis, Frank Serafini. The score, Alex Bornstein's score, was amazing. It was mixed by the gentleman who, and his name eludes me, who actually scored Buckaroo Banzai. We mixed in his facility. It was amazing. And seeing Prelude to Axanar in the theater in Horton Plaza on a gigantic screen with a thunderous sound system was great. It was fantastic. You couldn't have hoped for something better. Amazing. It all worked without a hitch. Then we used Prelude to Axanar, this film, to raise money to start making the feature and to set up a studio facility to make the feature version of Axanar. We needed a place where sets could be built, and the idea was, and this was all stated in the very first Kickstarter, that we were going to do this. The movie Prelude to Axanar it exceeded our wildest expectations, and a lot of money was then generated, more money than I ever thought possible. It was incredible. But I figured, great. I mean, if we have the same production methodology, that was Gilbert walking by. He always cameos in these videos. Fantastic. We got the whole crew. We know what we're going to do is going to be great. And I figured we just move forward and make the next movie, build the sets. But now here's the thing. Here's what happened. As happens many times when you're working on projects and suddenly a lot of money is involved. Making movies is gratifying for those people who love the process. When you're making a film, it truly is the journey, and then you hope the destination turns out to be what you wanted it to be. But for me, my whole life, I've worked in the entertainment community for 30 years. Now, everything that I've ever worked on, I'm a journeyman, but everything I've ever worked on is either good to great. I've never made anything that was just horrifically awful, because I know that if it isn't great, then I will go to people that will help me make it better. The whole point is you need the community. What I get off on, what I really like, is working with a group of talented people who are all working forward and moving toward a goal that everybody collectively shares. I'm not a communist, but making a movie collectively with people is terrific. The problem is there's a lot of people that don't have that same experience. They don't receive the same satisfaction from going on that journey. And in my mind, the problem that happened, where this project went off the rails, is rather than try and retain the team that made Prelude to Axanar, which again went off without a hitch, the producer, Alec Peters, wanted to assume control and more authority. And after all, that was his prerogative. It was his project. But the problem is he'd never made anything other than Prelude to Axanar before. He'd put on events and big events, but he'd never made a movie except this one. And what we should have done is just, as a great producer does, you surround yourself with all these great people that know how to do what they're doing, and then they make something that you can then be proud of, and you can walk around and go, that's my movie. That's what a good producer does. Well, anyway, be that as it may, a lot of people, Alec didn't want to work with Jennifer Weberly anymore, and the production team that made Prelude to Axanar was slowly chipped away. And now there was hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in, and there was a lot of money at stake. And we did have these grandiose plans that I think would have worked. As soon as you get millions of dollars, any producer worth their salt, you hire a production accountant immediately. So all of your money is accounted for. And that way there's always a person that's outside of the money that it's in their best interest. It's their job to oversee where that money goes and how it's spent. That didn't happen on this project. The money was all controlled by Alec. Now, everybody else that worked on Prelude to Axanar, we all had day jobs. As I said, I was working on Star Trek when I started out, and I'm always looking for another gig. And then what happened to me is I started working on a film called Paradox, a low-budget feature film that I edited. It's on Netflix. It was directed by my friend Mike Hurst, who I'd worked with. We were both directors on the HBO Cinemax series Femme Fatales. So I was doing that, and while Christian and Alec were trying to keep the Axanar feature film going and finding stuff, a facility that was a good facility that would serve our needs. During this time, Christian and Alec developed tension between them because the Christian perceived that money was going out and being spent not on the film but on things where the most important thing was the movie, and immediately his production team that Christian brought in was being marginalized and put to the side, which I wasn't really a part of that, so I didn't know. And my job was really to produce this for the donors. Now, it's hard to see. It's being reflected maybe over here. This is the Axanar Blu-ray that I wanted to make. Now, I controlled every part, bit of the process of this DVD. I ran a contest with donors and fans to create this artwork, not just the interior artwork, but the artwork on the disc itself. I produced a 45-minute documentary based on the material that I had shot on set, and I recorded 2 audio commentaries. I brought in one of the guys who did the menu design for the Star Trek discs, who did the Enterprise Blu-ray designs, and I brought in Josh Rubenstein, who authored the Star Trek discs for CBS, to work on this. Now, it took a while to get done, because again, I wasn't being paid to make this disc. But this disc alone, if I was being paid my market value on a disc like this, let's talk anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000. That's how much my work was worth, that I was not remunerated for in any way, shape, or form. But I'm working on the project. Now, to be honest, during this time, while I was working on these things, shit would happen. Like, for instance, my laptop computer that I had been editing features on and doing all the Star Trek stuff. If you know Mac computers, my battery exploded. It didn't explode, it expands. It does that weird expansion thing. Destroyed my computer. So what did Alec do? Alec said, well, got to keep working. He bought me a computer. Now, he bought me a computer, I would presumably with donor funds or whatever. Now, in my mind, I'm like, this is my computer. He's replacing my computer that was gone. It's never like, well, I'm buying you this computer and you have to give it back. This was my computer. I hadn't charged him any rent for anything that I'd done so far. I'd been using my own equipment. Now my equipment was being replaced for me, and it was being used to make stuff for the project. Because of this Blu-ray, it generated over $100,000 for the project. So getting a new laptop computer was, come on. I mean, I am personally now responsible for creating a product that our donors gave us money for. It has to get made. Nobody works for free. You're crowdfunding. Now, people can say, well, yes, you're crowdfunding on the back of Star Trek. Well, that was litigated in court, and I'll come to that later. But in my mind, I'm just working on something that has to get made, which is a Blu-ray. The Blu-ray itself is just a product. It's just something that's getting made. It's something the donors were owed. And everybody, Milton Santiago, myself, Christian, Alec, Diana, who was in charge of fulfillment, we were all keenly aware that we owed this product to our donors. Well, the situation between Alec and Christian, now we're into September of 2014. I wanted to film, like I did on Superman Returns, what I called production reports. And we did one. Christian and I did one production report where we took Anna Alexander, who was going to play a Vulcan in the Axanar feature. We took her to Makeup Effects Lab, and we shot her having a head cast done. Again, as a documentarian, this is something that I would have been paid thousands of dollars to shoot. Again, using my own equipment at this time and my own time. I created this production report. I think it's online. You can find it. Anyway, I did that. After we did that, the situation with Christian and Alec became very tenuous at best. It broke down, and I wasn't, privy to those conversations really. It just, you could tell that things weren't great. But I was still, in my mind, I was like, we're going to make a Star Trek feature film. Why was I involved with this project? Because that was it. Paramount and CBS didn't say anything. Prelude came out. Everyone liked it. We crowdfunded hundreds of thousands of dollars. George Takei spoke up, a lot of money was brought in. No one said anything. I figured Star Trek Discovery wasn't on the horizon. And one of the things that we were doing that we were keenly aware of is that the project Axanar was not set in any Star Trek continuity that had been touched on. In fact, canonically, whether or not there was a 4 years war was up to interpretation. I think in one episode of the original series they mentioned skirmishes, and but anyway, in the FASA game playing material from the 80s that all of us were fans of, they mentioned the 4 years war and Axanar. That's where it all came from. Axanar was seen, the Axanarians were seen in, of course, Enterprise. So, it was kind of a cool idea for me, who's a Star Trek novelist, devourer. That's why the whole thing appealed to me. It was so cool. It took all of the Star Trek stuff that I loved and put it in one thing. Tobias Richter's designs for the Axanar starships, which are way cool. By the way, there's a company selling them again under, I think it's called the Star Trek Second Fleet now. They've been rebranded, so you can buy all of the Axanar models, and which is cool because they made a Vulcan ship from my opening, the Vulcan scene that I directed, which I was like, wow, no one's ever made a model kit from something I directed until now. Anyway, so that's what appealed to me about this this whole project, and it was distressing that Christian was upset and that he was not getting along with Alec, and I don't blame him because Alec had chipped away at Christian's support system to make the film. You can't make a movie in a vacuum, and I think that Christian didn't feel safe anymore, and he also didn't feel that he could bring the quality to the project that he had brought with Prelude to Axanar. So I don't blame him, and as this project gained notoriety and people wrote a lot about it, it generated a lot of press. You know, uh, Again, the people that know how the people that work and the journey is something that they're on. They don't need press. They don't need adulation. You know why? Because we already know what we've made is good. We don't need anyone to tell us it's good. We already know. So that might seem arrogant, but it's true. That's why we're working on things. Things might not turn out as good as we'd hoped, but we already know they're going to be great, or at least good to great. So that's why we don't need the adulation. When people say things like, oh, I love Free Enterprise, or oh, I love Agent Cody Banks, or oh, I love The Hills Run Red, or oh, I love Femme Fatales, or oh, I loved whatever it was I worked on, Paradox. I know it's a little B movie, but I liked it. You know why I don't need that? Because I already know it's good. But it's really nice to hear that they found an audience, and that's great. But I don't need that. What I need is another job. I need somebody to recognize my work and go, Rob, you did great work on this project. I will hire you to do something else. So I want to utilize what it is you can do. That's been my raison d'etre since I joined the motion picture industry as a professional in the summer of 1989. And I've had a very spotty, things are up and down, but I'm hanging in there. Anyway, long story short, Christian left the project, and the natural person to assume his place was me. But I wasn't just going to be given the mantle of that. I had to prove myself to Alec. So it had been my suggestion before Christian had left that we should shoot a scene. We still needed more money. So we should shoot a scene from the project that didn't just have people sitting down in chairs or spaceships flying around, that we actually had a scene where I thought people were walking and talking, and we could create an environment where people could see what we were capable of doing with the resources at hand. And Christian had begun that process. He had at first, this Vulcan scene where Soval talked to Talara seemed to be, and she didn't have that name yet, I don't think, in the script. That seemed to be a place to start. And that's what Christian was doing. And then we were scouting locations. And I was going on these location scouts because I was filming everything for the idea that there was going to be an epic behind the scenes Lord of the Rings-esque documentary on the making of Axanar. Now, was I always being paid for this stuff? No. I had a day job, but sometimes, like, independent filmmaker, I'd be like, hey, Alec, I need some cash, dude. You throw me some money. And he would throw me some money. He had money to give me, but I was working for them. I was working on this project, but I wasn't being paid. I wasn't being remunerated for every single thing that I did. So it made sense that I would get paid because I'm worth a lot of money as a DVD producer and as somebody who shoots behind the scenes documentaries. So anyway, when Christian left the project, it sort of fell to me to take on Axanar to direct the feature film. And why did I do this? It's been my dream to make a Star Trek movie, to direct an epic science fiction film with a lifelong. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to do this? I certainly did. It was everyone else seemed to be supportive. Axanar had a lot of press. People loved it. I love the idea of Axanar. I thought it was great. However, what wasn't great was the screenplay. It was never finished. There was no finished Axanar screenplay at this time. When I took over as director and started prepping, I had to go back and do this scene, which is now called the Vulcan Scene. Was going to be this scene that we were going to use and shoot to raise more money, even though we'd crowdfunded a bunch of money that we were already selling, already buying. We were building sets. The great Dean Newberry was building sets. But here's another thing if I might, as a producer, if you're going to build sets, you design your sets, you hire a team of people to come and build them within a week or two. That's how it works. That's how that sets, flats, they're built very, very quickly. They're designed and built very, very quickly. Dean and Dominic, two guys, worked on these sets for months and months at a time. This would have been alleviated. You could have brought in even union carpenters. It might have been pricey, but you could have knocked these sets out in a week or 2 or 3. But Dean and Dominic, they did unbelievable work. The work they did on these sets was first rate because they were working, two guys that they put their hearts and souls into these sets. They're amazing, unbelievable. So it's too bad that their transporter set was later cut into pieces for no reason other than it was difficult to move. Really too bad, because with all those curves, and it was stunning to see that transporter room set that was not moved to Atlanta. It was just cut up. How much did that cost donors? How much of wasted effort was that? Anyway, so when I took over, I decided to do the Vulcan Scene, and that it's now become this walk and talk. And I'm like, okay, now I didn't like how it was written. I thought it was written. I didn't really like it. Christian had written that, and so I had asked Alec. I said, dude, can I rewrite the Vulcan Scene? And Alec really didn't care because he didn't write the scene, so it didn't. He was not precious about it, and he's like, yeah, so sure, go ahead. And I started rewriting the scene, and I realized that what I was writing wasn't great. So I asked Bill Hunt, my great friend Bill Hunt from the Digital Bits, who, by the way, has just finished his first science fiction novel, Only Those Who Risk. It's going to come out. It's going to be amazing. I'm halfway through it right now, and I know it's amazing. So anyway, I came on board, and we would rewrite the Vulcan Scene. And I had done animatics. I had done. I'd shot action figures in my backyard, and I'd made a story reel that kind of showed how I was going to shoot all of the angles, because we weren't going to spend a lot of money doing this, and the studio wasn't ready, and we didn't have a big green screen. I wanted to shoot this in natural light outside of our studio to create a realism, because it was going to be all virtual backgrounds. So the reason I needed, whenever you're going to do visual effects, you have to do this, because you're not going to know what the camera is going to see. And I was working with Tobias Richter, explaining to him, like, here's what I want. For instance, I had decided that I wanted the sun shining forward, and Tobias said, no, Rob, no. And he actually sent me a diagram, a computer-generated diagram of where he wanted the sun to be in the sky. So that meant shooting this walk and talk scene, as we shot it for the day we shot it on, we would have to move the green screen as the sun moved across the sky to keep the sun located in the same place. This is the kind of level of detail that we were going through, that I was going through as a director working with Tobias Richter. So the thing was, because we didn't have the biggest crew and we were trying to do this on the sly, on the cheap, we can only get a 20-foot green screen, 20 foot by 20 foot. So I only had as much time as it took to walk past that green screen in order to shoot the scene. If we had, and to be honest, I would have reshot what is now the Vulcan Scene. I would have reshot it on our big green screen, because I could have made it much more dynamic, and they could have walked and done more of the duration of the scene. We wouldn't have had to stop. We could have played the scene out. But what was really fun about doing the Vulcan Scene was I got to take everything that I wanted to, anything I wanted to, and put it in there. I wanted to see Shakar City. That was from the animated episode Yesteryear. I wanted to see, we saw Mount Saleya in Star Trek 3 that they later incorporated into Amok Time during Star Trek Remastered. I wanted to use all of those things. I wanted to have Vulcan perimeter ships, because if there were if there were if the Klingons and the Federation were truly at war, the Vulcans would always be on their guard around their planet. So we'd have perimeter ships, which had to be created. So Tobias had created. He was working on I guess a mobile game that never happened. So he had various designs for those Vulcan perimeter ships, and I picked out which design I liked, and then he was able to go back in and recreate a model. And I got to start picking these effect shots. I'm like, look, I want a sweeping panoramic shot. The camera's going to be moving and pass by Mount Saleya and reveal Shakar City. I mean, I was a kid in the candy store. I was even able to take the character that Soval was talking to, Talera. I renamed her as a character from Margaret Wanderer Bonanno's Star Trek novel, Strangers from the Sky, which is a great book. I've always loved that book. And what people didn't know is that Talera is Soval's wife, at least in my conception of the project. So I started working on this, and it was really apparent to me that the script needed work. So unbeknownst to Alec, and I'll admit to subterfuge right here, I started rewriting the Axanar script with Bill Hunt. Page 1 rewrite. Now the thing was, we retained Alec's script. His story I thought was sound. I thought the story was good. It's just, it was really not a great screenplay. And people will ask, well, who are you to judge screenplays? I'll tell you how I'm to judge screenplays. I read over 3,000 screenplays professionally in the 90s. I can tell a good screenplay from page 1 or 2. This was not a great script, but the story was there, which is really how every script begins anyway. You have a sound story. It just needed to be tweaked. It needed characters, pathos, proper action. It needed humanity. It needed real characterization. The problem with the script was the character of Garth of Izar, this great military commander, was a Mary Sue. He had no depth. And there was nothing in the script for Axanar that hinted at what would later happen to Garth, as we saw in the episode, Whom Gods Destroy. So this began a process that, by the way, continued on until even after I left Axanar. Back in 2018, Bill and I were still tweaking our script, thinking, maybe one day the script will see the light of day. And if anybody wants this script, I'm happy to provide it for you. You can have what I consider to be my final shooting script with Bill Hunt. That's almost a page 1 rewrite of what we originally had. There's nothing left of the original script that we got except the story. The story that Alec had come up with and Christian had come up with. We retained that story. But our script, there's that picture. Look, the picture where we were shot, me, Alec Peters, and Bill Hunt were shot on the bridge of the Ares, which said, here's our finished script. This is a locked script. In my mind, it wasn't a locked script. It was the first finished draft of a screenplay we had from beginning to end that was at least palatable. In my mind, that was, this is where the work begins. Anyway, as everyone knows, on December 30th, 2015, after we'd raised, God only knows, I don't know, I wasn't in charge of the money, $1.5 million, we were sued by CBS and Paramount in a joint lawsuit. There's a lot of reasons for that. It's all a matter of public record now. You can all go back, and I encourage everyone who's interested to go back and read everything about the lawsuit. It's very, very interesting. I know that a lot of people from a lot of areas of IP law were interested in the lawsuit and all of that. But really, it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, this project was a good one. Prelude to Axanar and Axanar would have been great. The Axanar feature film would have been great if it was finished. Now, once we were sued, things got really dicey. My relationship with Alec was a good one. He and I, when I came on board, we had some epic clashes creatively because, frankly, I'd spent a hell of a lot more time thinking about the story and the characters of the screenplay than he ever did. In my mind, for instance, I'll give you an example. Why was Garth of Izar a great military commander? Well, you don't really know in the script that I was given, but Bill Hunt and I talked about this hours. We'd have hour-long discussions. I'll tell you why. In my mind, Garth of Izar was a reluctant hero. And because before he went to war, he was the greatest Federation explorer there ever was. He went to more worlds than any other captain. Well, he learned things as an explorer, for instance, about, say, the gravity well of a gas giant, that allowed him to become an amazing tactician because he used his scientific knowledge and applied it to warfare, space warfare, which was not always thought about by other military-only commanders, and that gave him an edge. The problem was, as an explorer, the destruction of sentient life was abhorrent to him, and eventually, in my mind, led him to the madness that we saw in the third season episode, Whom Gods Destroy. And we needed to inject that into the script. And I would have these conversations with Alec, and he would just look at me with, blank stare. And, as he always did, would look down after 2 minutes when he tuned out. So it was very difficult to have any kind of conversations with him about these kinds of things. And he didn't like them anyway. He didn't like these ideas. They were antithetical to what he thought he was trying to make. But I knew that we had to make something good. I brought on my friend, the great casting director, Christine Sheeks, because I figured if we're making this movie, we have to make a real movie. And it was very clear to me, especially after going to acting class with Alec Peters, that he didn't have the chops to carry a feature film. Now, he could have, in Prelude, it's fine because you surround him with other great actors, and he was good. He went to acting classes and he worked at it, but there's no way he can carry a feature film. You just can't. And so he even relented. He agreed, to Alec's credit. He actually agreed to step back, and we would cast somebody else as Garth Vizar. So we were moving forward with Christine Sheeks. We were casting the movie. We were talking to some great people. We had already started to cast some really interesting actors. I'm not going to go into who we really had cast a few people already that were great, but because that never happened, why talk about parts nobody ever got? But I will say that there were some great people. But Alec didn't particularly like Christine. He didn't understand how casting directors worked. So there was a lot of tension there. And as we moved forward, I developed an incredible frustration with Alec because he wanted to control everything. And as a producer, you can't do that. You have to trust the people that are working for you. And he would say things like, well, it's like television, Rob. I'm the executive producer. I'm like, really, dude? Are you? The fuck do you know about producing anything? Prelude to Axanar is a 20-minute short film where people are sitting down on a green screen. When it comes to lighting or painting sets or all that, and then Alec, but to his credit, he would bring in people like production designer John Iacovelli. But John Iacovelli didn't want to work on a fan film. John Iacovelli didn't have the wherewithal to see our vision, or he's a professional. He doesn't want to deal with that. So anyway, we had some epic clashes. And, during this time, Alec did some really nice things for me. My car exploded. He helped me get a new car. It was because of him. But again, these were things that he did during the production of this film because he needed me to continue on, and I wasn't yet being paid. I wasn't being paid regularly. I was basically his charity case that would be scrapping and working on other things that was also working on Axanar. And then when I became the director of the Axanar feature in October of 2015, the deal was I would be on board permanently. I would come on board full time and work on the Axanar feature until it was done, and I would be getting paid $3,000 a month to do it. Now, that not a lot of money, but I agreed because I could pay my rent and live on that. And as long as I could pay my rent and live, that was that was great. And we would still I would get to realize my dream of making this movie. So anyway, once the lawsuit, I stood by Alec for a fucking year. You think that was fun? You think I enjoyed that? You think I loved the fact that my professional relationship with CBS was destroyed? I didn't get to work on the Roddenberry Vault. It was done. My film Free Enterprise was supposed to be released on Blu-ray by La La Land Records. They wrote CBS and said, can we still do this because Rob's involved? The answer was, maybe you better not. There's still no Blu-ray of Free Enterprise. How much did that cost me? I don't know. No one can say. It's all speculative, right? But anyway, I stood by him through the lawsuit, and because I hoped that we would get to make our movie. My lifelong dream. I'm not going to give up. I'm still trying to make Free Enterprise 2. We had the funding to make Free Enterprise 2 in 2010. We lost it 2 days before principal photography. Have I given up on making that? No. And did I want to work? You know what? John Van Sitters at CBS in Consumer Products and Marion Cordry. John Van Sitters and Marion Cordry are fucking great people. I loved working with them. We had a great working relationship on the Star Trek The Next Generation Blu-rays. They were terrific. John Van Sitters loved, no one loves Star Trek, no one loves Star Trek more at CBS than John Van Sitters does. And good on him for getting his promotion, because God damn it, he deserves it. He's got more oversight over the Star Trek brand now. Good for him. I hope one day I'll be afforded an opportunity to work for him again. Probably not. See, Gilbert can feel my agitation. That's why he's barking. Anyway, so the lawsuit happened. It was ridiculous, crazy, but interesting. I can't complain. It was an interesting time to live. May you live in interesting times. This was, as a Star Trek fan, lifelong Star Trek fan, very interesting. But anyway, what a waste, what a monumental waste of time. So during the time, by the way, that I've worked on the Axanar project, not only did I finish Star Trek The Next Generation, Gilbert, please, but I also edited Paradox, which is on Netflix. I edited a Lifetime movie called I Know Where Lizzie Is. I also started editing and producing a movie called Tango Shalom that we're finishing up. I created a 50-hour medical lecture series that you can get online with a doctor in Portland. All of this I created. You know, I was also on a weekly show on YouTube. I did all of the Axanar podcasts for a while. How much were those worth? Anyway, I created a lot of programming during the time I worked on Axanar. Anyway, I just want to point that out. A lot of programming that you can watch or buy. So I stayed with the lawsuit. The lawsuit was settled in, I believe, January of 2017. Alec prevailed. I mean, you might say he prevailed. CBS said you can make 2 15-minute episodes of Axanar as long as they adhere to the fan film guidelines, but you even get to use your actors and the people that you had. Like, epic win, right? Epic win. So I figured, great, okay. Now, my idea was, despite all the histrionics and fireworks, I mean, you should read, back in March of 2016 during the lawsuit, I wrote Alec an epic email where I was like, fuck you, I quit this bullshit. There was a lot of that. But again, that happens on a lot of projects. But I stuck with it. I didn't go away. Stuck with it. Anyway, so I hoped, my idea was this. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make the first 30 minutes of Prelude to Axanar. One of the things that I forgot to tell you all is I'd worked with Tobias Richter designing all of the space-only effect shots for the beginning of for the first half of the movie. So those were mostly finished. There's various iterations of those things, all of which I'm going to release and show you. I worked on those with Tobias. How it would work was I would send him very detailed notes. He would send me back an animatic. I would look at the animatic, which is all the motion or the animation that's in the shot. I would give notes on it, and then he would send me back various iterations of the shots. Now, each one of those shots was meant to be interrupted by live action material. So there's shots that are long, languid, turning over. I really wanted to make use of the 3D space, but I knew that you always intercut this stuff with live action. So one effect shot becomes 3 or 4, or sometimes even more. I was involved in all of that. It was moving forward. I had Alex Bornstein write me an opening piece of theme music to Axanar that's incredible, which you will also hear. I'll be releasing that. Alex Bornstein, during Christian's tenure, created Karn's hymn, a Klingon hymn sung in Klingon. It's amazing. It's incredible. Richard Hatch had all of that to sort of inspire his portrayal of Karn. So all of this incredible work, the sets were being done. I was doing tests with Milton Santiago about what colors the bridge should be painted. I mean, Alec would just make these unilateral decisions. Oh, the bridge should be this color. Well, how does that look on film? Anyone who knows anything about set design is you don't just paint a set willy-nilly. The reason that you also have to do tests. If you look at the Ares bridge, the finished Ares bridge, it isn't going to look good on camera because there's nothing to it. There's no detail. But those weren't based on, again, not based on what it looked like on camera. But Dean, Jared was building props. There was a lot of people working on this, and Milton and I were doing tests. We were seeing how bright these things had to be, because how much illumination spills over to the rest of the set. All of these things are tests and things that have to be worked out. But when you don't have people that have worked on movies before, they don't know this. So anyway, it went on. The lawsuit went on. We had this epic win, and I wanted to make the first 30 minutes of the movie because we had all of the assets. They were finished. The Klingon sets were built, the Klingon war room, which was fucking awesome. All of this stuff was done. Territory, I had a group in the UK territory. They had storyboarded an opening credit sequence. In my mind, the opening credit sequence would be a Saul Bass opening credit sequence that would tell the story of the 4 Years' War leading up to the Battle of Axanar. Those were done. I have the storyboards. You'll see that material. I have it all. And so all of this stuff that we created was amazing. During the lawsuit, I had to make a tape to deliver to CBS. It's an hour long of all the work that I had done up to that point, the effects, the iterations of the Vulcan scene, the music, some of the camera tests that we had done. So I had done an hour. By the way, I had done all of this work. I'd also participated. Anytime a video came out of Ares Studios, I made it all of this stuff. Now, when the lawsuit hit, the $3,000 I was promised a month, it all went away. The money was drying up. But I was still promised that money. It's not like just because a lawsuit hit doesn't mean that I should understand and not get paid. That's not how it works. So anyway, Alec did not want to make the first 30 minutes of the movie because here's my thinking about it was this. We'd already seen Prelude to Axanar. If we were going to be seen as filmmakers, we needed to do something different, not repeat what we'd already done. Now, with the Vulcan scene, I showed what was possible with 1 day of filming. And again, that was a first proof of concept. You think that wouldn't have been refined? Of course it would have been refined. The sound mix on it isn't even done. But it proved what we could do with a professional approach to fan filmmaking. That's all I wanted to do. So if we had shot the first 30 minutes of Axanar, which we had all the sets, we had the costumes, we had all the visual effects, we had everything we needed to make those first 30 minutes kick ass. It would have been and then you'd say to be continued. Who knows where that might have led? Who knows? I mean, if it was good enough, that 30 minutes it could have been a calling card that led to much bigger things. When people said, you guys did this after a lawsuit, and I could have directed the hell out of it. Milton Santiago would have shot the hell out of it. Tobias would have done an incredible job with all the visual effects. Christine Sheeks was putting together an incredible cast. I think we could have gotten a lot of people to be in it. But no, instead, Alec wanted to do these two 15-minute segments because he wanted to see the Battle of Axanar, which there's validity to that. But as filmmakers and people that like, are we filmmakers or are we just Star Trek fans? To me, and it's been almost 2 years. Where is those 15 minutes? I mean, Alec had Gary Graham and J.G. Hertzler at his new studio in Atlanta. Why didn't he sit them down and shoot them while they were there? All you have to do is put them in a chair and sit them against a green screen. That's what I would have done. But it wasn't fit. It wasn't to be. So when I realized that Alec and I were at an impasse, I resigned from Axanar in early November of 2017. I wrote a letter to Alec and I realized, we just don't see eye to eye on this. And I really don't need to I don't need to direct something that was copying something that we already made because there's no way we could make it good. Not as good as Prelude because Richard Hatch was gone. I don't care who you hire. The spirit, the esprit de corps that existed when we were making Prelude to Axanar would never exist again. So, and by the way, who needed the headache? I could have shot those 15 minutes in a day. As long as I had the makeup, probably take 2 days. We could have banged that stuff out. I mean, Prelude was shot in 2 days. What's the problem? I don't know. Why is it 2 years and nothing's there? I don't know. Alec bought a house. He has a coffee shop. He's got a lot of things. And apparently, after I left, before Alec moved to Atlanta, I copied every single bit that I'd created, and it was a lot. Every single asset that I personally created for the Axanar project, things I was paid for and things I was not paid for. I didn't get my $3,000 a month during the year of 2016. Where'd that go? They were on two hard drives, G-RAID hard drives that Alec had bought for me, and they sat on the floor next to his desk for months. 4 months. Everything he wanted was there. Every single bit that I'd created, every single piece of work that had been done on this project were on those drives. When Alec moved to Georgia, I guess those drives are lost. I don't know what happened. So the producer of our project has lost essentially the digital negative of everything that's created. Lost it. Gone. Now, there were other things that happened. There was a company called OWC that donated computers through Bing Bailey, our colorist, because he had worked with OWC, and the guy from Larry, from president of OWC, liked it. Bing was able to get 2 computers and 4 hard drives donated by OWC. And I started using them. Bing said, "Here, man, I got one, you got one, use it." This was not purchased. This was not bought. It was equipment that Bing got for us when we were using it. Nobody said anything. So anyway, or late September, I think, maybe August, September of this year, 2018, almost a year since I had resigned from Axanar, Alec wanted all of these assets back that he had lost. And why come to me? I'm not part of your project anymore. Luckily, I kept it all. And so toward the end of this year, he threatened to sue me for all this equipment that was either donated and then everything he had bought from me during the entire course of the project, and monies owed to him. This is after I went through a lawsuit for a year. If you break down, he was suing me for $45,000. Now, if you break this down, it's $15,000 a year. Well, how much is my time worth? How much is a man who's produced motion pictures for Warner Brothers and MGM and worked on video projects for all the major studios? How much is my time worth? Let's break down $15,000 a year for my involvement on the Axanar project. A man who stuck by him when no one else would. But anyway, that's Alec Peters. That's what he does. Rather than make Axanar, rather than make his 2 15-minute films, he'd rather come sue me. Well, during this time, after I pushed back, his lawyer, by the way, who was going to sue me, quit when I said, "Show me the evidence that I owe him any of this money. Come up with it." He quit. His lawyer quit after I had to spend thousands of dollars that my family and I don't have to go after with this lawsuit. Figured that was it. But then somebody that I'm in business with, a business partner of mine, that we are developing a number of projects that we have moving forward, things that we're collaborating on that are real for various companies. Alec told this person in an email that he wanted to destroy my reputation and ruin my life. That's what he said. Really? Really? Me. Every single piece of video that ever came out of Axanar before I resigned, I did. I finished. I didn't direct Prelude, but I finished it. I was the last man standing. I carried it into the theater. This Blu-ray, I did it. All of it. I made every piece of video. And you know what? All this video that I created, those visual effects with Tobias, all of it's mine. I made it. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to release it all. Give it all to you. Because you know what? I'm going to create a 90-minute documentary of all the material that was created for Axanar, which is a lot more than Alec Peters has given his donors in the 2 years since the CBS settlement. And I'll tell you something. The donors deserve it. They paid for it. Alec didn't. Alec didn't pay for any of this stuff. The donors did. Now, I'm not going to talk about where money went or any of that stuff. Unless you ask me questions, I'll answer them. By the way, I'm going to go up and start from the top at this chat, and I'm going to answer all your questions. I'll sit here for 4 hours if I have to. I'll answer anything you want to know. But as far as I'm concerned, after I threatened, by the way, to release I didn't threaten. Pardon me. It wasn't a threat. I've just stated a fact. I'm going to release all this stuff on New Year's Eve. It might take me a little longer now because I was going to be doing that today. Alec sent me a letter this morning. I tweeted it out, threatening to come after me, not for $45,000 anymore, but for $30,000 because the computer that OWC gave us, I gave that back. So it's $30,000 now. It was $45,000 before, but now it's $30,000. And I can't wait to share with you Alec Peters playing Colonel Nathan Jessup from Aaron Sorkin's great play, A Few Good Men, because you know what? Alec Peters can't handle the truth, but you'll see why I don't think he had the chops to carry a feature film. Call me crazy, but I'll leave that up for you to decide. So anyway, that's sort of a basic overview of my involvement with the Axanar project. And let me go back up to this chat. I'm going to scroll back up, and I will start from the top and come down. Hassan Chavez says, how are they going to ruin your reputation? Are they going to leak your Amazon purchasing list? I don't know. Look, I'm a pain in the ass to work with. And you know what? If you're paying me on a job, I have no problem. But, when you're struggling and you have a day job in addition to trying to service everything that was going on while you're getting sued by people that you've worked for in the past, life gets a little rough. And I will be the first to admit, Alec was very generous and helped me out when I needed to be helped out. But if I was getting paid for my work, he wouldn't have to. I bought 10 Prelude Blu-rays and DVDs and gave most of them out for Christmas, says Charles Austin. Thank you, Charles. Now, how much did you spend on those Blu-rays? Did you purchase them at full price? Lenti says, friends don't let friends work for free. You're right. Brian Eng says, that sounds like a lot of money, but you live in Pasadena, I guess. Yes. Robert April says, I ran into a couple of guys who work with Alec, got an anecdote or two that are better suited for Midnight's Edge After Dark. I love the guys from Midnight's Edge, and good on them for getting that interview with why am I drawing a blank? They got the interview with Nicholas Meyer. That was very cool. Midnight's Edge After Dark says, Captain Robert April, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I don't want to piss people off. Yeah, you might get sued. You might get sued. Shane Vanson says, what about your cell phone bill? Oh, I'll tell you about that. So, okay, at the studio, this is a good question, actually. When I've ever worked on a production purchases cell phones for the crew. When I worked on Superman Returns, I was only the DVD producer, but I was issued a cell phone from the production. Because when you're working on a set, like we didn't have an external phone line at the studio. So Diana, Alec, and I were all on the same phone plan. That is not something that is unusual for productions of this kind, especially, look, when you're talking about over $1 million, it's a production. And it was like, do we pay for a monthly phone line and put phone lines all over the studio? Or do we have one line? So yes, you might object to that, but that is a standard practice on productions. Let's see. There's a lot of people mine. You guys keep talking amongst yourselves. Errand of Mercy vaguely alluded to prior conflicts, as did Trouble with Tribbles, Donatu 5. Yes, Circus Maximus says that. That is correct. Boa Trek says, you need to be a consultant on these new Trek shows. That'll never happen, but I completely agree with you. Victor Acosta says, I know it has nothing to do with this chat subject, but just because I like pestering about it. Hey, Rob, have you seen Into the Spider-Verse yet? No, I have not. I'm sorry. Chris Condon says, but Alec loves adulation. That he does. There's, I don't begrudge anybody for liking adulation, especially when they do good things. And let's remember, Alec Peters did create this project. It is his project. But you know what? If he wanted to make it the way he wanted to make it, he should do it by himself. Once you invite other people to share in your collective or creative vision, it's no longer your project, it's our project. And that's why filmmaking is so exciting. One of the things I love the most about making movies is collaboration with people that are incredibly talented and more talented than me. One of the things I learned from the great Bryan Singer, and I do still think he's great, I've been on many of his film sets, is he's a great orchestrator. He brings in people that are better than him. And that's what Alex should have been content to stand back and go, you know what, I'm going to bring in people better than me. But he never would do that. He had to be the final arbiter of all of these things, which, that's not how you make a movie. Shane Vanson said, Alec called Netflix to sell them a Star Trek movie called Axanar as if they own Star Trek. Don't you think that was fishy as fuck? I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't know if he actually did that. I didn't witness that. So I don't know. Remember, something important to remember, when we did this project, there was no Star Trek Discovery, and we had no idea that they were going to move in on our Mac, our idea of doing the Klingon War. I don't know if they came up with it lots of people come up with parallel ideas at the same time, but I can't speak to what was up with that. Wake Me Up Before We Get There says, any interest in a Romulan Cardassian-based series that does not involve Starfleet? It's still Romulan Cardassian. Harry43 says, hi, Robin, everyone. Dean Newberry, former construction coordinator for Axanar. Everyone have their popcorn. Well, hello, Dean. First of all, I cannot say enough good things about Dean Newberry. The guy's a genius. And I'll tell you something else. He brought in Ben Ralston to work with him as an art director. And Ben Ralston was the production designer on Lucas Kendall's crowd-funded short Skyfighter that is also a precursor, a proof of concept to a feature film. And Skyfighter's great. And Ben, oh, by the way, that's another thing. You know, Lucas Kendall crowd-funded his 15-minute short film. We're just waiting for the final effects. It's color timed, it's edited, score's being written, and it'll be done right in the new year. I did that too. I forgot. Gosh, heck, it's really tough to make 15-minute films, I tell you. Let's see. Shane Vanson says, Rob, you should have seen the red flags way before you finally left. Here's the thing. Everyone says the red flags. There were no red flags. We made Prelude to Axanar. It was great. When I took over as director, I thought I would be able to work through any conflicts Alec and I would have, because you work for the good of the project. That's what everybody who works on a movie does. And I thought that's what I would be doing. And I thought that's what would happen. It didn't go that way. Let's see. Red flags everywhere. Yeah, but you still Shane Vanson said $12,500 a month in rent for those sets to just sit there. What a waste. Hey, I agree. You know what? I brought in a group that was going to take over the studio, trick it out so they could shoot live things there. I was going to make some decent money. I brought this in through a friend of mine. Then Alec told me I couldn't make these kinds of decisions, took it over, and that deal went away. I don't know to this day what happened to that, but that was really sad. Gabe Kerner's here. Hi, Gabe. Welcome, Gabe. Casey Shafsky says $4,000 a month in Georgia, and he needs a generator. Again, I can't speak to that. I've never been to Atlanta to their studios. I don't know. I can't speak to anything that happened after I left. I don't know anything about it. Let's see. There's a lot of comments. All the stuff I ran off with to the tune. The Axanar Defender. I didn't run off with anything. You have to understand, I didn't run off with anything. I took my stuff. It was not given to me like this is Axanar stuff. It was stuff that I was using for years, and when we moved out, no one said, hey, you got to give us this stuff back. It was only when Alec needed things from me that then he decided to sue me a year after I resigned. So let's be clear. I resigned in November 2017, and Alex sued me in, I think, August or September, or threatened to sue me in August of September of 2018 when he decided he needed this stuff. So, and it wasn't to the tune of $30,000. It was the tune of $45,000 first. So all of this stuff, all of the material that I was ever given was to replace or augment what I had already been using to make Axanar. So it's not like I absconded with anything. And certainly when Alec moved to Atlanta, there was not a problem. It was a year later after the fact. So let's be clear. Let's see. The famous locked script picture. That's what I was talking about. The final version, the 7.3, whatever the 7.3 script is, we're way beyond that. I think the final version was 11x or something. My shooting script was 11x. As I said, happy to send the script to anybody who wants it. DM me your email on Twitter and I'll send it to you. Rob, there is a fantasy trilogy of books by David B. Coe. Wake Me When You Get There asks the Lon Toblin Chronicles. I think you may like this series. I'll check it out. Let's see. Lucas Kendall says, leave Christine out of this. Christine was a vibrant part of Axanar for many, many months. And she did a great job. Bill Hunt says, to get me, the final script version Rob and I worked on is version 11 NX Director's Shooting Draft. Yes, that is the one that I have. And I encourage all of you to read it. I'll send it to anyone who wants it. And please review it. Happy to see what people thought. My question to Rob, Stormin1775 says, why are you being so active online now regarding your Axanar experience? What happened to facilitate you suddenly appearing on Axamonitor and having Axanar podcasts? I'll tell you why. Because Alec Peters said in an email to my business partner, he is going to destroy my reputation and ruin my life. This after I already spent thousands of dollars defending myself against his first lawsuit, first threat of a lawsuit. He didn't actually give me a lawsuit. He just had a lawyer threaten me. And then that lawyer quit. But once you say that you're going to ruin my reputation and destroy my life, I figured, why not get out in front of it? By the way, watching Jonathan Lane's sycophonic, ridiculous defense of everything Axanar in the podcasts he was doing with Mr. Miller from Trek.org really rubbed me the wrong way, because there was collateral damage in this project that is never considered. There's people that weren't paid. There was people that worked really hard that were cast aside. There were people who ran in fear for their life, and those people weren't considered either. And I'm somebody who stuck by Alec, and he threatens to sue me? Really? It's not my fault he lost his drives. I mean, what producer loses their digital negative of all their assets? I don't know. As a matter of fact, there's no reason for me, just so you know, there's no reason for me to even have any Axanar assets at all. I quit the project. I resigned. I'm done. I'm over. However, I never destroy anything I made, and all of it's cool, and you'll get to see it all, which I'm happy to share with you. Shane Vanson says he still doesn't know how to produce anything. Well, I don't know. I keep waiting to see. He keeps saying he's producing things. I hope he does. Hope springs eternal. Why did you expect to get paid? Shane Vanson says, why did you expect to get paid for a fan film? That's why Alec got sued. Because everybody gets paid for their work. You know, why would this idea that you shouldn't, we're not the only fan, Axanar was not the only fan film that raised a lot of money. People have to get paid. You can't have actors and not pay them. You have to pay them once you're hiring. There's this idea that you're making a fan film that somehow people aren't going to get paid. What about a carpenter doesn't care what he's working on? He's just building a set. He doesn't care what the set is. You got to pay somebody to build a set. Also, it's against the law in California not to pay people for their work. Circus Maximus says the Roddenberry Vault. Yes, there's a very cool thing. The Roddenberry Vault is a Blu-ray set that came out that uses the material, that unseen material, behind the scenes material, excerpts that you've never seen before from the making of the original series. It's unbelievable. The stuff on this disc is amazing. Get it. Olenti says, I like R&B because he's very earnest and sincere, my new favorite channel. Well, thank you. I try and be honest and sincere, and if I'm not, call me on my bullshit. You know, that's what I have to say. Bill Hunt says, the fate of the script I worked on isn't up to me, but I finished it unpaid because I felt a strong obligation to complete something for the fans and donors. When it was done, I left the project. Yeah, Bill was supposed to get paid for his work too. He's not been paid a dime. Not a dime. And he busted his ass. By the way, to be clear, I did not write, other than a few words of the Vulcan Scene that Bill Hunt rewrote anyway, I did not write a word of the Axanar screenplay. Not a word. So you all know. Didn't write one word. Bill Hunt did a page 1 rewrite of that script, which is readily apparent to anybody who reads it. By the way, I love the line, waves upon the firmament, just to say. Put that up. Bill, how do we read it? As I said, anybody who wants that final Axanar script, DM me. I'll send it to you. I have no problem with that. It belongs to Bill. He wrote it. Rob just, yes. Circus Maximus. Okay, Rob, consider us to all have asked you for version 11. I might as well put it up somewhere. I'll find, you know what? I'll find someplace, some way to put it up and just give it to you, and you can all read it. And I'd be happy. I'd be very curious to hear what you guys think of that script. We talked about that script a lot, and Bill put his heart and soul into it. It's a great script. It's too bad it never got made. I think you'll see that. And look, I haven't read the 2 15-minute scripts that Paul Jenkins is going to direct, and I like Paul. I think he's great. I knew him a little bit about 15 years ago. I think he's a terrific guy. I hope he gets to do it. I hope he gets to do what he wants to do. Stormin1775 says, this podcast is so much more interesting and informative when compared to the Matt Miller, Jonathan Lane debacle. Well, I don't think it's a debacle. You know, first of all, Matt Miller has done some great work not just work that's Axanar related. His channel, he's got some great stuff up there. And I've watched other things he's done, and he really cares. The problem is Jonathan Lane has now been put in a position to defend Axanar through Alec's party line, and admittedly, Jonathan does a good job going back to the court documents and reporting the facts. But the problem that Jonathan always leaves out is all of the work everybody did and the expectations other people had of working on this project that were originally established during Prelude to Axanar that were not met. Not the least of which is the expectation of the donors to do what we said we were going to do. Let's see. Shane Vanson says, please tell us what Alec promised you after Axanar was completed. In other words, what was your motivation to stick with this obvious train wreck where you promised a partial ownership in the studio? No, I wasn't promised anything. What appealed to me about a studio is, of course, we famously wanted people to come like Starbase Studios and make their fan films. We wanted anybody to be able to come to the studio. Now, we also hoped that we would rent out. First of all, when I say it's a studio, it's a warehouse that we converted to become a soundstage that we still were renting. The whole idea was that the Axanar project would pay for the studio or that space while we made Axanar, and then we would have to complete other projects in order to continue paying for the space. As any, by the way, as any production would do. I never thought it would take this long. We should have just brought in a bunch of, look, after the Vulcan scene was made, which we shot in a week, one day, we should have been shooting segments of the script every weekend. Why we didn't do that, I'll never know, especially once we had the green screen. At least we would have had Richard Hatch playing Karn for the first half of the movie. Rest his soul. At this point, CBS should buy Axanar and put it up on their streaming service. Darkhawk Mark says that. Why? They've got Discovery. To me, I have really no interest in seeing an Axanar because it's no longer canonical. We were trying to make something that was canonical. Now it isn't. Why bother? Make something else. 2 pages took a whole day. Critus Maximus says, yes, when you're shooting all green screen and you're following the sun, it didn't take, but it did take a whole day because we had to move the 20-foot green screen and secure it before we could shoot and lay down dolly track. Yeah, it was designed to be a one-day shoot, and it was. We actually finished early. But yeah, we designed to shoot that scene. It's a 3-minute scene that we designed to shoot in one day because it was quite logistically difficult because we were moving. If you think about how big a 20 by is, it's a 20-foot square green screen. It's like a giant kite, and we were shooting it outside, and we had to follow the sun. So, and also during that day, remember, we can't shoot for 2 hours because the sun's overhead. So anyway, Shane Vanson says, because all of this is a sham. No, it really wasn't. And when I release all the material I made, you'll see that it wasn't a sham. Critus Maximus said, FASA had a version of it where the Axanarians were third parties caught in the middle. Absolutely. And they would be. Let's see. Captain Robert April says, Alec Peters, self-anointed Grand Poobah of the Axanar project. Well, listen, to be fair, Alec created the Axanar project. It is his project. But again, if he wanted to make it the way he wanted to make it, he shouldn't have involved anyone else. He should have just written a book like other people would. But when he involves other creatives, every creative person who works on a film brings something to the table. That's the whole point, is you want something to be greater than the sum of its parts. Let's see. Stoggy Returns says, threatened, you're being sued. Well, I haven't been sued yet. And, you know, I welcome, if I'm going to get sued, fine. I'm going to get sued again. He's going to threaten to sue me again. I'm being sued. Well, I haven't been sued yet. Sued for what? And by the way, Alec wants to sue me in Georgia. So it costs me more money. Like, here's the thing. Why is he suing me and not making the Axanar 15-minute movies? He's got all the assets he needs to make those. There's nothing that I have that Alec doesn't have that he can't use to make the 15-minute Axanar stuff. Even the visual effects. Tobias Richter has those. He can get those. Alec has all the dailies from Prelude to Axanar. He has all the dailies from the Vulcan scene. He's got all that stuff. You know, he wants to sue me for what? Monies I owe him. You know how many people Alec Peters owes money to? So whatever. Stoggy Return says, this is destroying my reputation. No, it's not. My reputation, I already went through a lawsuit. I'm just hanging out talking about something that I did a couple years back. It's not destroying my reputation. My reputation, I'm making things. I'm producing a movie right now as we speak. I have it up on my screen that you can't see. A movie I'm producing. I'm still creating content already. How much I've created tens of hours of content. It's not destroying my reputation. I mean, anything that I had that would have destroyed my reputation happened when I was a part of the Axanar project when we got sued. And, also, I'm not a person that put in an email that I wanted to destroy someone's life and ruin their reputation the way Alec Peters did to my business partner. Alec Peters wrote this to my business partner about me. Be clear on that. He wanted to destroy my life and ruin my reputation. And that's just one thing. I have other letters where he talks shit about me. When he first was going to sue me, he sent those letters out to people and told other people that he was going to go after me. Who does that? Why do that? Anyway, let's see. Alex, a lawyer. Well, he passed the bar. Let's see. I keep going back. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot here. I got to find where I am. Here we go. S Hook says, "Will you loan me 200K, dude? I'm working paycheck to paycheck. I don't have 200K." Jason Kovalik says he passed the North Carolina bar. Oh, there you go. Good for him. He's never practiced law though. Gramash says, "Have you seen the Vader episode Shards of the Past?" Yes, I haven't. It's awesome. For those of you who don't know, Vader Shards of the Past is a fan film that is awesome. Everybody check it out. Go get it because it's great. Let's see. Toby J. Wood says, Alex about to be a meme. Oh, he's been a meme for years. You check it out. Even on my Twitter feed, you can see many memes. Stoggy Return says, laugh out loud or release my old friend personal fan films to shame him. Just sad. Let's see. Lou, hate it when fan film productions end up in turmoil and bad blood. Should be a celebration. You know what? Star Trek Continues certainly was. Look at Star Trek Continues. That's the way you make a series of fan films. And they did it. They completed their mandate. They went out and they did some great stuff. I think their episode Lolani, terrific episode of Star Trek. It's not canon, but if you're going to make a fan film, that's the way you do it. You develop that community around you. And we had that. Axanar was great for a while, guys. It was great. It was a terrific thing. Oster Casillo says, hit me up if you need spare computer equipment. I constantly upgrade all the time, and some of it is just collecting dust. No, I'm good. I'm on a state-of-the-art iMac Pro. I love it. It's fantastic. John Price says, question, what do you see as the future of fan films with the new restrictions because of Axanar? I think they're going to be great. It's the restrictions on Axanar. Lucasfilm has had restrictions on their fan films. I think it's fine. Creativity is creativity. Are people going to be able to make hour-long episodes? No. But remember, the fan film guidelines are just that. They're guidelines. It's not law. So people can do whatever they want. Wow, this is crazy that you would get sued like this after the CBS. Not really. When Alex sues people, it once again puts Alec at the center of attention. He can go after people and feel like he's doing something rather than actually, produce the work that he's been paid to produce by his donors. I get it. I understand. He loved being in that lawsuit with CBS. Read any of his interviews, look at any of his videos he made. He loved it. What a waste of time. It's too bad. William Allen said, has the whole debacle soured you on doing any fan films in the future? I mean, you have a real career in film. It isn't like you need to do this. No, I don't. But I'll tell you something. People have to start somewhere. My friend Lucas Kendall, the movie that we're making right now, this movie Skyfighter, that was also a crowdfunded. It's fantastic. I mean, Lucas did a tremendous job writing and then directing and producing this project. It's the way things should go. And while it's not based on a previous IP, it's his original IP. It's great. I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's terrific. And Christine Sheeks also cast that. And this girl that we cast who's in the show Shameless just got a pilot. So, it's great. I love working with people that are excited about what they're doing. Fantastic. Nerfherder 21 says recently watched all of the original Star Trek films after having only watched the new ones. Now what I know what real Trek is. Thanks, Rob, for getting me into real Trek. All right, now watch the original series. Wes Mass says, do you like Star Trek Continues? Asked and answered. Michael Miller asks, any thoughts on the fact that CBS stole Aeneas Abedin and then threatened to sue him for his game, which was in development from 2014? I have interesting thoughts about the tardigrade case. Let's say I read the original outlines, about 150 pages of outlines for Star Trek Discovery. Let's just say I did. And if I did, I might know that there was a tardigrade character already a part of the Discovery crew named Ephraim. So the character of the tardigrade was always a part of the original conception of Star Trek Discovery. He was a character. What ended up happening with the portrayal of that tardigrade in the series is nothing like it was originally written into the original treatment for Discovery, the original outlines for the episodes, if I had read them. And it's the similarities are interesting. When somebody comes on board on a script and decides to rework things, clearly that tardigrade stuff was inspired by Dune and the Guild Navigators and floating space, folding space. But there are some interesting similarities that I'm like, if you're looking, if somebody goes, oh, I'm going to do a Google search about tardigrades, and what do you come up with? What do you read? That game was one of the things that came up. So I can't speak to whether or not stuff was stolen, but I know that the original conception for Star Trek Discovery had a very different portrayal of the tardigrade Ephraim, who was a crew member. If, of course, I had ever read any of that stuff, which I'm not saying I have, but if I had. Alex seems like an idea guy, but falls short on execution. He's a great idea guy. Alec has great ideas. He'll charm the pants off you when you get into a room with him, but he doesn't want to do the work. I've never met a lazier human being who expected to be a movie producer. Really haven't. Lino Fuja, the seventh, said, Rob, what do you feel like Hollywood needs to do to make a good live action anime production? I feel like they keep making movies when a series would be better served to the story of most anime. I think you're right. Look, it's really difficult to translate anime into film, and also the whole conceit of anime. It's very Asian in its conception and execution, and I think that we haven't quite got what anime is, at least to translate it into live action. There's a couple projects going on I think it's Your Name. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with that. Did Tommy Kraft's success with Horizon make Alex seethe? Asks Kale Haug. No, I mean we're big fans of Tommy Kraft. What Tommy Kraft did with Horizon was incredible, and we were all very excited for what he did. All of us. It was terrific. What Tommy Kraft did with Horizon was amazing. It was Herculean. I do think that it's our fault that he didn't get to make his follow up. Maybe it was just because Discovery was coming down the pike, but it's too bad because I would like to have seen it. Film Threat says, please do an HD version of Star Trek Eternal, arguably the greatest montage of Star Trek ever edited. Well, that was a montage I did in 1996 when I had one day on an Avid. I did this montage for Star Trek called Star Trek Eternal, and I cut it against a piece of John Williams music from the Nixon score called The 60s, The Tumultuous Decade. That video, which you can find on YouTube, but the quality is horrible because it was standard def and it's only on VHS, so it looks terrible. But if you find it, you can see what I was going for. But it was only Star Trek that existed in 1996. That video was actually purchased by CBS to use to promote the 30th anniversary of Star Trek. I cut different versions of it, and it got me a job working on the Star Trek Experience in Las Vegas, the $80 million attraction that I worked on for all that time. Neil Bulk says Axanar coffee was a bad idea, though, right? Again, here's what I think about all the people, the Axanar models, the Axanar coffee. The whole point of the Axanar project was to bring together Star Trek fans. And as a lifelong Star Trek fan going to conventions, there's a lot of creativity in the Star Trek world. People are creating all kinds of unlicensed merchandise. You're never going to get rich off creating Star Trek merchandise. You're focusing on a niche market that you just do it for fun. And the fact that you can recoup your costs is pretty good. I mean, the idea that, sure, would some proceeds of the Axanar coffee go back to us? Probably. I mean, some element of it, but ultimately the Axanar project was never designed to ever turn a profit. It never would have turned a profit. We had to give away the movie for free. I mean, uh, the thing is though, creators, anybody who crowdfunds anything, creators do take money to live on or to use for themselves while they're making their projects. I don't have a problem with that at all. But when you're making something that's based on someone else's IP that you don't own, well, the courts have spoken. And we it was never our desire to make money. I had to live while I worked on the Axanar project. But other than that, if I was going to work full time making a feature film, there's no way. I'd have to be paid something. Otherwise, I'd already have to be rich. Toby Wood says, prepare to have my Twitter DM wrecked. Hey, you know what? If my Twitter DM is wrecked, that's okay. I want all of you to please subscribe to my channel, the Burnettwork, here on YouTube. Watch these chats, comment on these chats, share these chats, see if there's anything you like about these chats. That would be great. Olenti says, I'm going to get my copy of the script ASAP. Chris Conant said, Jonathan Lane sycophant. Yeah, Jonathan Lane objected to, I wrote him a really mean, I don't know, it was mean. I was angry. I was angry because all of Jonathan's defense of Axanar and Alec does not take into consideration the human cost of everybody that put their time and effort. People like Dean Newbury, who is also on the outs with Alec, and Jared, who stood by him during all of this. Diana Kingsbury, who Alec owes money to. I mean, it's unbelievable that we have been treated this way. It's unbelievable that somebody would want to come and sue me for working for them for 3.5 years for very little money. Michael Miller points out that Renegades paid their actors and crew full union salaries. Yes, they raise a lot of money, and good on them. Because when you're hiring actors that are in SAG, they can't work for anything other than full union salaries. RMB, take on Lane in a debate podcast. I wouldn't want to do that. I think Jonathan's got his facts correct, but I would just get angry because he's coming down on one particular way. I mean, Jonathan Lane, he's a rubbernecker. He's rubbernecked with Axanar. He never had to be a part of it. He never really had to feel what it was like to know that when there were unnamed John Does in the CBS lawsuit, at any one moment, we thought we could be one of those people named. Alec did nothing to alleviate anyone's fears during that lawsuit. Never. He also hasn't thanked people for standing by him for all that time. He just sues them. I talked about Shards of the Past. Let's see. I keep looking around. Dan V900 says it's unfortunate, and he says that he needs to raise $250,000 for the second episode. The first episode got 3.5 million views, so getting $250,000 would be doable if he was allowed to go. Oh, I think that's for the Vader Shards of the. Yeah, I could see that. That the production value is great. Clay Sayre says, what producer can't produce? I don't know. Somebody who's been allowed to produce 2 15-minute segments of Axanar, and they were allowed to do it 2 years ago after we did Axanar, Prelude to Axanar in 4 months, soup to nuts. Let's see. Captain Robert April says the Ares bridge set doesn't match up with a pre-TOS design aesthetic, but it'd be perfect for a fan film. I'm kicking around. Well, good. You should. I know that Alec would probably let you do that. Michael Miller says they extended the series to wrap it up, and Picard is supposed to be a replacement. I've heard that. By the way, I've heard many things about this, none of which I can guarantee. Let's see. Hey, RMB. Jason Kovalik says, hey, RMB, you said you didn't see any red flags. Why didn't you see Gossett's departure as such? Well, here's the thing. Look, I understood where Christian was coming from, but in my mind, we still owed the donors a movie. I know Milton Santiago, the DP, felt that way too. And I felt an obligation. I mean, I had been vocal. I'd gone on these podcasts. I'd represented for the movie. I'd shilled for Axanar. I talked about how great it was ad infinitum in the press and online. And when anybody asked at conventions, and gone to conventions and spoke about it. OWC Computing had me come to Las Vegas and do a presentation about Axanar. By the way, something I was not remunerated for. Again, didn't do it for free. I mean, I did it for free. I really believed in it. I thought if we finished Axanar, it'd be great. It'd be a cool thing. Jason Kovalik says Lilani is one of the best Trek fan stories. I completely agree with that. I think it's awesome. Mike V says, does Alex sue people all the time? Well, he is very litigious. Remember, when you're doing lawsuits and things, you get that buzz, the same dopamine buzz that you get from playing video games, or you get to be the center of attention, or when people like your Facebook posts. Alex, all about that. Let's see. I recently visited the Star Trek Continue set in October on a tour to the public. It was very cool. Totally very cool. Loved it. Was this the Trek lawsuit J.J. Abrams came out for at one point? Yes. Yes, we thought it was going to end there. That was a good day. Let's see. Bill Barkley says, hi, Robert. Have you heard about War of the Worlds three-part miniseries that's coming to the BBC sometime in the new year? Yes, I can't wait. And it's set in the Victorian era. I can't wait. So good. Let's see. Grimesh says, to me, Star Trek Discovery looks like Mass Effect, and I like it for the same reason, but no one's making a movie based on me. Yeah. Robert April says, I think a factor in Horizon not getting a sequel might have to do with the main NX ship in the show that was the Discovery. I totally agree with that. The reason that Tommy Kraft had to put the kibosh on his movie was totally because of Discovery. Kevin Burns says, hello from Japan, Rob. Hello, Kevin. Are you watching Space Battleship Yamato 20002 with the Return of the Comet Empire? I can't wait. Stoggy Return says, if you want to squash the beef, the desire is there. You're not being genuine. You're being greedy. Never our desire to make money. But then you're like, where's my money? No, what I'm like is, where's the money for the work that I'm doing? If I'm doing work, I expect to be paid for the value. I was already doing work for pennies on the dollar. And I'm not like, where's my money? I haven't even thought about this. I wasn't asking for any more money. I did a lot of work that I was not remunerated for. Simple as that. Stoggy Return, stop being angry with Jonathan about trying to move forward. Am I being angry with Jonathan about trying to move forward? Who's moving forward? It's been 2 years. No one's done anything. Why were Perks patches not sent out? Again, a lot of them were. Here's another thing. I stuffed envelopes for a whole day with all those patches. I don't know why they didn't go out. I should probably talk to Diana Kingsbury about that. James Ham says, Rob, are you worried about the Axa faithful trolling you now and turning on you? Wait, are you turning on you like they have done to us all? No, I'm not worried about the Axa faithful. You know why? The Axa faithful are going to get to see all the stuff I got to do, and they're going to be like, wow, that was really cool. It's too bad we didn't get to see that before. Wow. William Allen says, since Alec is unlikely to finish Axanar, is there anything stopping you from getting the band together and making it without him? I have no interest anymore in making Axanar because Star Trek Discovery has rendered it all moot. It'll be one of those great what ifs, I have no idea, no desire to do that. Let's see. Your friend Guzman says, friend, how you doing, man? Rob, what are your thoughts on John Schnepp? First thought that comes to mind. The first thought that I have about the great John Schnepp, who passed away this year, who I used to do Collider Heroes with, is he was infectiously enthusiastic about everything that he loved, and that it rubbed off on anyone that knew him. My friend, Bardo, was it Bartomac? How you doing, man? Such a shame it never happened. Prelude to Axanar reminded me of World War II in color, a fantastic docuseries. I agree. Midnight's Edge asks, is the Bad Robot Paramount deal up next year? I don't know. Jonathan Lane's here. He says, hey, dude, I got it here. What'd I miss? I just came at Sycophant. You know how I feel about you, Jonathan. I think you do good work, but you're a total Alec Peters Axanar sycophant. But that's okay. Neil Bulk says, is the ring ship canon? I think Neil is referring to the ring ship. Yes, it's canon because you see it on the wall in the rec deck of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. That is actually an Eagle Moss ring ship, which I love. Lucas Kendall says, meanwhile, the sun is going down behind you. It is. I'm doing this for a lot longer than I thought I was going to do. Michael Miller says, blame John Van Sitters for the lawsuit continuing. You know what? I don't blame John Van Sitters. It's really interesting. I got to read all of the emails, Alex emails, which I still have, by the way. I should release all those too. But I don't want to be provocative, so I won't. But I read all the emails about Alec's relationship with John Van Citters, and look, if Alec was guilty of being overly enthusiastic and 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 feeling that his place as the Star Trek archivist was more official than it really was. I love John Van Citters. I think he's done a great job, especially with the publishing line of Star Trek. I think getting out the consumer products, everybody that had worked there, Holly Amos, Marion Cordry, his whole team has been great. I love John Van Citters. I have nothing but the best things to say about him. He's a good human being, and I like him a lot. Let's see. Let's see. The lawyers got all the money. Robert is a total loss at the time. The lawyers, wait a minute. What money? The lawyers got all the money at the time? No, it was pro bono, right? Stoggy Return says, "Hey, Jonathan, you missed getting bashed and called a patsy." No, Jonathan, I'll like I said, I didn't call you a patsy, but I do think you are an Alec Peters sycophant. And I was asked if I would debate you, and I said probably not. I wouldn't debate you because why would I do that? You have come out in favor of Alec, and what I had said, if you didn't hear me, I said that the human toll that was taken on many people that were involved in this project never comes up when you talk about Axanar. You talk about facts and you talk about everything as Alec Peters presents it to you and how everybody is moving forward. But there are downsides to these things that you never mention. Rob, do you have any cool Star Trek props? You know what? I don't like props. I like prop replicas because real movie props are usually cheap. And I don't care if something's on camera. I would much rather have something that is made like the master replicas, phasers. Well, you can't see them, but they're up there, that allow me to imagine it's actually from the 23rd century. And that goes all the way back to getting the Star Trek Technical Manual back in 1975, which felt like it was real. John Parley says, "Are you going to convert all the AXA faithful to the AXA monitored team?" No, you know what? I think it's all a complete waste of time, to be honest. Why hate anything? As one of the things that I've been a purveyor of on my channel and on the Weekly Hero that I do with John Campy and the John Campy Show on a daily basis is we live in what I call the post-geek singularity. We are getting incredible things all the time from all different directions, and we should celebrate that. I don't understand all this weird animosity. I mean, when I was a kid, look, the Katinga Battlecruiser 1/350th scale model just came out last month. I never thought I'd see that. It's amazing. So I don't want to convert anybody to why waste time hating on something? You know, why not find things that you like? Let's see. I'm losing. Let's see. Let's see. Elizabeth Bell, my girlfriend, says she didn't get her patches. I know, and she gave $100. My girlfriend gave $100 to Axanar and never got her patches. Who do I blame? Jason Soto says, "I love listening to you. What's your favorite series right now?" You know what I'm watching that I didn't catch up with was Killing Eve. I love Killing Eve. I did watch Black Mirror's Bandersnatch was incredible. Watch that. Amazing. Let's see. Let's go back down. Even further. Gramash says, "I'm scared of Netflix doing Cowboy Bebop." Don't be scared. I think it could be cool. Spike Spiegel needs to come to live action. I think it'll be great. Having the resources and no lawsuits, what project would you take on? Well, I have a lot of projects that I really want to do. I have a movie called Solomon's Knife that I really want to make. Another movie called The Jehovah Contract. I'm working on a few other things. I'd like to somehow raise the money for Lucas Kendall's feature version of Skyfighter. That's great. Did Schnepp share any non-superhero interest with you? Well, Schnepp, he was working on a poetry book. He was working on a lot of things. He didn't just like Star Trek or comic books. Sorry about that. He liked all kinds of things, all kinds of cinefantastique. So he liked a lot of stuff. Seems Paramount are trying to place Chris McQuarrie in charge of the Trek franchise when Abrams leaves. God, I'd love it if Chris McQuarrie took over the Star Trek franchise. That would be fantastic. I think it would be great. Bill Barkley says, "I've not watched Titans yet." William Allen says, "Please be provocative. It isn't like Alec Peters needs a legit reason to be provoked. He's going to be provoked anyway. Let the rest of us read those emails." Yeah, but if he's going to sue me, I mean, I have no interest in the only reason that I'm angry with Alec Peters is because he says he wants to ruin my life and destroy my reputation. Like, really? Why? Sycophant. Oh, pardon me. You're right. I am saying sycophant wrong. It's not sycophant. It's sycophant. I understand. Yes, not a good look. Sorry. Um, it's sycophant, not sycophant. uh, uh, did Alex start to think of himself as the new Gene when Prelude got popular? I've seen emails where referred to himself as the keeper of the flame. Yeah, there was certainly elements of that. But hey Gilbert, sorry about that. He always comes in. Uh, uh, Obi-Wan says I have a Master Replicas phaser signed by Shatner. It looks like yours is signed. Yes, sir. I have my Shatner edition of the phaser and the communicator, and both Shatner and Nimoy signed my Master Replicas Enterprise. Sycophant. I'm sorry. Yes, Mark. I was saying sycophant. I was saying sycophant. 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 Anyway, what's next for Robservations? What are your future ideas? Stay tuned. There's a lot coming down the pike. Obi-Wan says, I gave $75. I got my patches. Don't blame you for Axanar. Jonathan Lane says, and Rob, I'm okay with you saying it. Personally, I think I'm more of a supporter of Axanar. It's just hard to support Axanar without also supporting Alec. Look, I agree with that. Axanar is Alec. Midnight's Edge says, do you think that if Alec hadn't caused so much animosity with CBS Paramount, maybe we'd be enjoying Axanar instead of Discovery? I don't know, because I don't think that's true, because Paramount, there's a lot of levels of dealing with the rights for Star Trek. It's very, very complex, and nobody can just come along and make something. But no, I don't think so. Bill Hunt says he's looking forward to seeing Lucas's film. Congrats. Yes. People gave thousands and got nothing. James Ham says people gave thousands and for nothing got from Axanar not going to happen. Yes, I know. There were donors. There are many donors that gave $10,000 to get associate producer credits on Axanar. What do they have? Nothing. Let's see. What are you looking for? Are you looking forward to the Picard series? Bill Barkley says, yes, I can't wait. Alexander Wilson says, Robert, do you think NBA basketball will return to Seattle? Goddamn better. Seattle Supersonics, 78-79, world champions. Jack Sikma, downtown Freddie Brown, Slick Watts. Come on. Let's bring back Seattle. Let's bring back an NBA team to Seattle. It's about time. News of 75, way off topic, but what are your thoughts on the artist Jean-Giraud Mobius? I love Mobius. Come on, Mobius rules. Love Mobius. Let's see. I'm looking. Nope, CBS told us to get stuffed. Told us, did they? No. Toby J. Wood says you can support Axanar and still admit that Alec is a major stumbling block. You can. I think so. But remember, it like the road to hell, it started with the best of intentions. Let's see. Wake me up when you get there. Rob says, oh, Robert and Gilbert remind me of Doc Brown and Einstein. It's kind of like that. Gilbert, by the way, just celebrated his year-old. He became a year old. Where can we find the content you're going to upload? Kelly Bentz asks this. All my content will be uploaded from now on my YouTube channel right here, the Burnettwork. Find it out and check it out. Neil Bulk says, have any donors sued Alec? Not that I know of. I don't think so. Hey, Rob, talk about who you wanted to cast in the film had it gotten made. It's an interesting list. Well, Bill, you know what I said earlier? I don't want to talk about that because I never want to talk about actors who don't get a part, but that's something, if you ever meet me in private, I will tell you who they are. My favorite prog rock band, boring, probably Yes. I love Yes. Mr. Rick Wakeman on keyboards. Love that. Let's see. Bill Barkley says, Rob, did you have a great Christmas? I did have a great Christmas. You know why? I got this. The Toshin Star Wars Archive. That's all I wanted for Christmas. And my girlfriend Elizabeth got it for me. So yes, I got it. Fantastic. I love Christmas. We had a great dinner. It was really nice. Won't Alec do a DCMA for any Axe related stuff? How can he? Does he own it? Does he have a copyright? I think the lawsuit proved that he doesn't own it at all. So there you go. And plus, it's my work. Like the work that I'm posting, keep in mind, the work that I'm posting is only work that I've done, work that I completed in documentary form. Jason Kovalik says, what's better, the Master Replicas Communicator or the Magic Wand one? The Magic Wand one's pretty great. It's pretty great. You know, the Master Replicas one's great, but I think the Magic Wand one's even more accurate. John probably says, did you get anything Star Trek related for Christmas? I did not. Kelly Ben says, pie and sushi, real or no? It was. There's a sushi restaurant close to us. But here's the thing, you know, Alec didn't spend money buying us sushi meals all the time. He didn't. Usually when we went out, we went Dutch, or he would pay for things if we discussed the project, because it was the project. I mean, that's what it was for. Hey, Rob, are you in the SAG union? I am not. I once had to join AFTRA because I was the voice of the XFL cheerleaders. For real. I produced those commercials for NBC. I was the voice. I just found them recently. Gilbert's still teed up, says Chuck Austin. He is. Olenti says, I love how Gilbert gives no fucks. Well, okay, I guess the Axanar discussion, guys, is done. I really appreciate you being here. This was the longest chat. Ask me any questions you want in the comments below. Again, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Follow me on Instagram at RMBurnett. And again, trying to build the channel. And if you have ideas for me to cover, please do so. I have a lot of content I'm going to be releasing. And, you know, since Alec is already going to move ahead with suing me, I'm going to release. Here, I should say this. I created an hour-long tape, actually a file of all the work that I had done for Axanar to date during the CBS lawsuit. It was delivered to CBS. What I would be releasing is a version of that tape only with my commentary in between it. So that work was already part of a lawsuit. So there you go. That's what it is. Mike Bodden says, hi, everyone. Did I miss anything? Bill Barkley says, hi, okay. Okay, Rob, have a great show and have a great new year. Stormin1775 says, thanks for your insight and perspective. And well, I appreciate that. And remember, look out for the Space Rob video game that's going to drop soon. That's getting made. It's cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out, and I'm involved in a lot of great things in 2019. And remember to watch me on the John Campea show and on the Weekly Hero on John Campea's YouTube channel. And keep watching this space for more episodes of Robservations and more live chat, because they're a lot of fun. So everyone, have a good new year, and don't drink and drive. And I hope that everyone's 2019 is great and that the stock market is less volatile next year than it is this year. Thanks for participating. I really appreciate it. I'll see you soon.